Welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down a heated Senate judiciary exchange where Senator Hawley pressed a judicial nominee on policing, ICE, and ties to left-wing fundraising. The nominee had to clarify if they stood by the radical statements of groups they're connected with. Let's get into it. Hawley zeroed in on the nominee's ACLU Southern California membership. The chapter claimed U.S. policing has roots in slave patrols and forced dislocation of indigenous youth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to all the nominees. Thank you for being here. Congratulations to your families. Mr. Sheriff, if I could just start with you, I wanted to follow up on a question or two that Senator Kennedy asked you, because I wasn't sure that I understood your answers, but I bet you can clear it up for me. Let me just come back to questions he asked you related to your membership in the ACLU and the Southern California chapter. I think we've established that you're a member there. You said you contribute $120 a year. Fine. I just want to go back to these various statements that chapter has made. And my question is not, why did they make the statements? I'm sure that we can look up what the ACLU of Southern California said in which context. I just want to know your own views on it. I'm trying to figure out, do they speak for you on these matters? That's what I'm trying to ascertain here. So here, let's try this again. They have written, the ACLU of Southern California, that that U.S. policing has historical roots in slave patrols and in the forced dislocation of indigenous youth. Now that's a pretty strong statement. I just want to know, does that represent your viewpoint?
Hawley pressed, do you believe that? The nominee said they didn't know the history but respected federal law enforcement. Hawley raised another ACLU claim, that police presence harms California students. The nominee didn't endorse this. Instead, they shared seeing police as a positive force in Fresno, working with communities.
Senator, I do not have knowledge or background in terms of the origins, and I don't know what they were referring to there. I can speak to my experience with federal law enforcement, and I have tremendous respect and have worked closely, respect for, and have worked closely with federal law enforcement who I believe uphold the rule of law and serve the public interest every day.
What about this? The same letter says that the presence of police has devastating and discriminatory impacts on tens of thousands of California students. Do you agree with that?
Senator, I don't know the context in which what that's specifically describing or talking about.
But in your own experience, I mean, are they speaking for you here? Do you agree with that?
In my experience, in Fresno, in the Fresno division of the Eastern District of California, on balance, I believe that the police, including the police departments which our office works with closely, and certainly federal and state and local law enforcement, are a positive influence.
Okay, good.
Hawley kept pressing to separate the nominee's views from the ACLU's rhetoric. Then the questioning shifted to ICE.
Let's talk about ICE for a second, because I know you testified that you've worked with ICE. So the same chapter of the ACLU that you're a member of has said that ICE is not welcome here. They've gone on to say, as part of a package that they devised for children, they released door hangers, posters, and coloring sheets for children that included guidelines for how to use them. The guidelines said ICE agents resort to trickery and deception. Do you agree with that? Has that been your experience, that ICE agents resort to trickery and deception?
My experience, Senator, is with working with ICE agents on cases under 8 U.S.C. 1326 and other related criminal immigration cases, and I have found them to be diligent, hardworking, and ethical law enforcement officers.
Okay, good. So I think we've established that the ACLU of Southern California, at least as to these statements, they don't speak for you.
The ACLU had published materials telling children that ICE agents use trickery and deception. Hawley asked point blank. The nominee made it clear, no. They said their experience with ICE agents showed them to be diligent and ethical. Again, a deliberate distancing from the group's statements. Hawley questioned donations through ActBlue, noting the platform hosted fundraisers with themes like, all cops are bastards. The nominee said no, they never contributed.
Let me just ask you about this. You've also been a frequent contributor to the group ActBlue. This is a group that, as my colleagues on this panel have emphasized of late, have supported fundraisers with the theme, all cops are bastards. Have you contributed any of those fundraisers through ActBlue? all cops are bastards fundraisers?
No, Senator.
Does that represent your view or experience with law enforcement?
That does not represent my view of law enforcement.
Okay. I think that those are helpful answers. I think we maybe could have gotten there a little bit earlier with my colleagues, but I'm glad to hear you distance yourself, frankly, from these statements, because I think those statements are pretty outrageous. And it concerns me a little bit that you're a member of a chapter that regularly, and we're not talking about one thing, we're talking about multiple letters, multiple projects, multiple issues over years from this particular chapter. But I'm gratified to hear you say that they do not represent you on these matters.
And that message didn't reflect their view of law enforcement. Hawley wanted this clearly on the record. By the end, Hawley said he was relieved the nominee rejected those radical views, though he wasn't thrilled about their ties to an organization that pushes them. This shows that for federal judicial nominees, every past affiliation and donation is scrutinized. If you've backed a group with extreme positions, you'd better be ready to explain if those views are yours. What do you think? Should nominees be accountable for organizations they support? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hawley.